So here we are for Stranded, the Australian Canadian Music Show, and our very first interview for 2019. I'm joined by musician Evan Catalano.
How's it going, Matt?
Very good. We are sitting in my living room here in Williams Lake, British Columbia, and we're looking right out across the lake right now, and it's quite a warm winter's day. But we're not out there playing on the ice, we're inside talking about music. Evan, you are born and bred in Williams Lake, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
At heart, you are a punk musician.
Yeah, punk's my go-to. I mean, I play acoustic, I do some experimental stuff, but yeah, it's always been, punk's always been my main dilemma.
Main dilemma, I like that. Have you used that in a lyric yet?
No, I haven't.
If you haven't, I think you should.
That's a good idea.
And Evan is actually from a musical family, so I know your father is a musician and your brother as well.
Yeah.
And your brother, what does he do at the moment?
He actually makes, my brother's Evan Catalano. He's in Vancouver. He's got a wife, and he's been living near Nanaimo SkyTrain station for the last few years, and he makes music for movies right now, and he does like audio descriptions for movies, and he also works on a farm.
What I wanted to first mention is that there's a fantastic story that connects both of our families, because Evan actually lived in Canberra, where I grew up. He went with his family. His father was on a teaching exchange, and believe it or not, we lived in adjacent suburbs in Canberra.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, hasn't your dad said yet?
I don't remember hearing about that.
If any listeners are curious, Canberra has two adjacent suburbs called Fadden and Gowrie in Tuggeranong, which is in the south of the city. And apparently, I was in Gowrie, you were in Fadden, which are literally right next door to each other. And then many, many years later, we crossed paths here. So I thought that was kind of an interesting story.
That is interesting. Coincidence.
And Evan's dad was actually a part of an amateur ice hockey team in Canberra, and I think he would have been highly valued for his skills, as Australia is not known for being a strong ice hockey country.
For sure.
Do you remember much about living in Canberra? Is there anything that sticks out?
Galahs. The galahs and the cockatoos just flying everywhere. Kangaroos everywhere.
They really are, aren't they?
Scorpions everywhere.
Scorpions? I never saw a scorpion.
Oh, really?
No.
I caught like 20 scorpions in one day when I was 8 years old in Australia. Yeah.
No fear.
Well, like, I think I scooped them up with a bucket or something. But yeah, I kept turning over rocks and kept finding scorpions.
Whoa.
It might not have been in Canberra. That might have been in another part of Australia. But regardless.
That's still pretty cool, because even I haven't done that, and I'm born and bred there. So
oh, wow.
All credit to you.
Okay.
In terms of punk rock, actually, we'll keep it in Australia for now, because I know that Evan he's got a deep knowledge base of punk as a performer, but also as a curious fan. And of course, SNFU are a great Canadian punk band. And I've told Evan before that I saw SNFU in Canberra. I think it was around 1996, playing, supporting Bad Religion.
Yeah.
And also on the bill was Frenzal Rhomb. So
that would have been quite the show.
It was incredible. It was my first punk show, I believe, and wow. It kind of changed my life. I'm quite a fan as well, not quite as deeply learned in the genre as Evan here, but it definitely affected me seeing Chai Pig doing some incredible things on stage at that point.
Yeah, and it's an honor to be friends with Chai Pig. And to be able to have worked with him and done some music with him. Because like I listened to SNFU since I was like 12 or 13 years old. And I was about 20, 21 years old. And I was doing open mic at Pub 340. And there was this mysterious man there. And I had no idea what Chai Pig looked like. And I was just like, who is this guy? Like, is he like homeless or like who is this silly man in this leather jacket? And my girlfriend at the time said, what are you, some kind of rock star? And he said, only for 30 fucking years. And we're like, what band are you in? SNFU. I'm like, what? You're the singer? That's you singing all those songs? What? And then we became friends ever since then. Yeah.
And to the point where you actually play guitar for them?
Just for one show. Actually, I was a replacement guitarist for SNFU for one show. So there was a show that happened at the Dental Lab in Vancouver, and I was there, and I actually cabbed to the show with Chai, and when we got there, their other guitar player hadn't showed up, and at this point, me and Chai have been playing a few open mics, and pretty much I saw their set list, and I said, yep, I know that one, I know that one, I know that one. Do you guys want me to play second guitar? And Chai said, yep, do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is total punk rock. Right on the spot. Just doing it. That's a pretty awesome life experience. And you're still friends. And I know that you've even brought up some of his artwork.
Yeah, I got a bunch of his artwork last time I was there. Yeah.
If you wanted to pick one SNFU track to play on the show today, what would you pick? It might be hard.
That is a hard one. Let's go with I Forget.
Off which album?
It's off of If You Swear You'll Catch No Fish.
Sure, we'll do that.
That's all she's got. Hey, but not for long. And what was it that you said? And who did you say you were? Where did you say we are? And how did we get here home? She walks around in a daze. This disease has dead in her brain. It'll soon end the rest of her. So in a way she'll kind of die twice. Well, I know this may sound selfish of me, but I'd like to put her out of her misery. Sometimes I wish I had this disease, so I too could forget her grave. She's got Alzheimer's disease. It's eaten away those memories. Her friends say she looks her best. Now she even forgets to forget. I'll forget. I'll forget. Now she even forgets to forget. I'll forget. I'll forget. Now she even forgets to forget.
But as far as your own recorded output, you've written and recorded a lot of songs under the name Distorted Garden. All instruments by yourself and recorded yourself?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Going back to, we're here on the Bandcamp, distortedgarden.bandcamp.com.
Say if you want to play a song, go to one of my earlier ones, go to the album Rain, and the song off that would be cool to get on is Unscrewing, track 3.
Unscrewing, yeah, well, found it here. What can you tell us about that track?
Well, I wrote it when I was like 15 or 16 years old, when I was in my old high school punk band, and I recorded it back then, but my band wasn't quite wanting to play it for whatever reason. But I ended up re-recording it when I recorded the album Rain, and just it's just about someone who's drinking too much booze and getting on your nerves or something. And that's about it. Check it out. Here it is.
Cool. Distorted Garden with Unscrewin' from the record Rain, which was recorded in 2014.
Yeah, well, actually, there's a couple dates there, because if you read the description there.
So here we go. The music was mixed in the summer of 2009 in Vancouver. The vocals were re-recorded 5 years later in Williams Lake. Awesome.
My voice had to drop a little more too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not doing the things you should be doing, and I'm sick of watching you as your head's unscrewing. It's unscrewing. The only way to escape by turning my headphones on so loud. Talk to me like I'm a brick wall should make you feel so proud. It seems like you got nothing better to do than sitting around and drinking booze. I can't picture you ever following through, or putting yourself in other people's shoes. Go! You're not doing the things you should be doing, and I'm sick of watching you as your head's unscrewing. It's unscrewing. The only way to escape by turning my headphones on so loud. Throwing me like I'm a brick wall should make you feel so proud. It seems like you got nothing better to do than sitting around and drinking booze. I can't picture you ever following through, or putting yourself in other people's shoes. Seems like you got nothing better to do than sitting around and drinking booze. I can't picture you ever following through, or putting yourself in other people's shoes.
So, Evan Catalano, I wonder if you might like to play a couple of acoustic tracks while we're here.
Well, I do got a guitar in my hands.
Well, let's do it. What would you like to play first?
Well, that song I was telling you about, Unscrewin', that I wrote when I was like 16 years old. I guess I'll give that one a whirl. I haven't played it forever, and it's one of the ones I wanted to show you.
All right, let's do it.
All right, 3 chords. Here we go.
You're not doing the things you should be doing, and I'm sick of watching you as your head's unscrewing. It's unscrewing. The only way to escape by turning my headphones on so loud. Talk to me like I'm a brick wall should make you feel so proud. Seems like you got nothing better to do
watching you as your head's unscrewing. It's unscrewing. Only way to escape by turning my headphones on so loud. Talking to me like I'm a brick wall should make you feel so proud. Seems like you got nothing better to do. Sitting around and drinking booze. Can't picture you ever following through. Putting yourself in other people's shoes. Seems like you got nothing better to do. Sitting around and drinking booze. Can't picture you ever following through. Putting yourself in other people's shoes. I haven't played that song forever. So.
That was awesome. Thank you, Evan Catalano. I'm impressed with how well you did that with no warm-up and not having played in a long time.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
So that's the acoustic version of the track we've already played here, the original recorded version. And don't put that guitar down for too long, Evan, because I think we should play.
Okay. Let's think here. Maybe another song off the same album. Yeah. Okay. This one is a little more juvenile for the lyrics. This one's called Barbie Bones. I wrote this with a friend, Dan Burkowski, in our old band, which was called Loaded Stream, back when we were like 16, 17 years old. And yeah, I haven't played this song forever too, and it's fun. The lyrics are kind of, a little juvenile, but it's called Barbie Bones, and it goes like this.
All right. Fantastic.
There you
So that was called Barbie Bones.
Yeah, and that's also off Rain, one of my first albums. It's an oldie.
Awesome. So again, we're speaking with Evan Catalano here in Williams Lake, talking about his project Distorted Garden. So we have albums. We have a number of albums here. Do you, off the top of your head, do you know how many albums off?
Well, there's like 11 releases there, but a couple of them are just acoustic ones, and a couple of them are all leftover demos that I never did anything with. But most of them are kind of songs that I just recorded within a certain time frame. Then I was suddenly like, hey, I just recorded 12 songs over the last 3 months. I should put these together into an album. So that's how I kind of usually do it. But for this album, Rain, which is one of my first, it's the most consistent album out of all my albums, pretty much, which just has the same recording quality. And I did all the drum tracks in one day, actually, and I got kicked out of the place that I was living in because I wouldn't stop playing drums, because I was trying to record them all without changing the levels or changing the mics. And one of the roommates who actually owned the drums got mad at me because I was like, well, I'm recording an album right now. I'm recording drum tracks for a whole album. And then next thing you know, there's a house meeting and I get kicked out of the place I'm living.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. That was in Vancouver. And then I had no idea what I was going to do. And then so I found a place down the road with a couple of buddies, a couple of roommates. And from there, I had no idea what I was going to do next. And then I get an email from Todd Jenkins, also known as Todd Sirius from the Rebel Spell. And he says, Evan, can you get a hold of me? Because me and him known each other for years, and we sent music to each other for years. So, and then I said, yeah, okay, well, what's this all about? So he calls me on the phone and says, hey, Evan, what are you doing right now? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And he's like, okay, well, we're supposed to tour with Propagandy in about 2 months, and we need someone who can just kick ass on bass right away. Do you want to be in? Do you want to try? I said, I couldn't believe it, and of course I wanted to, and learn all their songs like as soon as I could. And that's how I joined the Rebel Spell for roughly a year. I wasn't in the band for too long. I just did some recording with them on It's a Beautiful Future, and a little bit of writing for the last one, but that's about it. And yeah, and actually on my record label, which we'll get to later, we're releasing his old band's album, which goes by the name of Endgame, which happened to be one of my first punk shows I ever went to when I was like only 10 or 11 in Williams Lake at the skate park. I'll never forget that show. And I'll never forget Todd and all the things he taught me about music and life.
Well, that's right. The Rebel Spell, I wondered if you could talk a bit more about why they were such an important band and why you are so connected to them. Partly, you have the connection of this town, right? Todd was from Williams Lake?
Yeah. Yeah, he's from Williams Lake, born and raised too.
And they were known as being a very visceral, a politically aware punk band, right? That really walked the talk.
Yeah, for sure. Like turning they're vegans and anarchist punk rock, like just straight up punk, and turning your tour bus into converting it to vegetable oil and whatnot. That's pretty punk, I think.
And yeah, they're much loved in this part of Canada. And sadly, Todd Sirius, the frontman, he passed away a few years ago. Is that right?
Yeah, in March of 2015. He passed away. He was a really hardcore rock climber, and things went wrong, and I'm just gonna leave it there.
Sure. And you've paid respects to the legacy of Todd and his work with releasing on your new record label, A Shot Collar Records, a record that he was part of a number of years ago. Is that correct?
Yeah. Endgame.
And what can you tell us about this record?
Well, it's Todd on vocals, and it's his brother Corey on bass, and his old pal Kurt Folden on guitar, and Steffa on drums, who also played for Rebel Spell for many, many years.
Looking at changing my philosophy. Could things be better? Well, I cannot say, but tears me up pointlessly, constantly, consistently, nearly every fucking day. Violently at odds with the world that's around me. Standards that do nothing, crippling, confine me. Still, I do nothing but the problems I can't fight, yeah. Still, I do nothing but these problems I can't fight. I can't touch the way things are, and all I can destroy is a boy named me. Who the hell am I trying to save anyway? And what good will it do for a boy named me? After I realize that it's all been up to me, and there's just one thing that's standing in my way. It holds me down, has my mind, breaks my will consistently, nearly every fucking day. I'm tangled and confused in the world that's inside me. My deals just serve to trip up and find me. Don't try to tell me everything's gonna be alright. No, don't try to tell me everything's gonna be alright. 'Cause I can't touch the way things are, and all I can destroy is a boy named me. Who the hell am I trying to save
So this was recorded in 2002 in Vancouver, but never released until now.
Yeah.
That's really what Evan has been committing to in the last number of months, establishing a new record label. It's called Shot Collar Records. You can find it at shotcollarrecords.bandcamp.com. And Evan has been curating a number of records that were like this album, recorded many years ago, but never released for whatever reason. So
Yeah.
tell us about how this record label came about.
Brandon Hoffman helped me quite a bit to inspire the idea and kind of showed me how to start up a record label, which is not too hard, but it still takes a lot of work. And I know it's going to be a long, long process, but there's a lot of albums in queue. I decided to start it with all the old Williams Lake punk bands that kind of were the roots of the punk scene here, and bands that should just be out there, I think, and that people need to hear, that shouldn't just be a CD on a shelf. And now we can put them online digitally, remaster them before doing that, and get them out there to people, and hopefully eventually it'll snowball into people actually loving this music like the way I do, I guess.
And how did you come across all of these old albums?
Well, from back in the day, there's some of the stuff that I'm gonna be releasing I already had from way back in the day, and then the other stuff I didn't even totally knew existed until people recently have been giving me this unreleased music, which I find fascinating, because it's like, where has this been my whole life? Where has this album been my whole life? And it's so cool that it's come from Williams Lake too. So it's like kind of like just showing the history of this town, like the unspoken history of the punk rock world that came from this town. People just and they're all up there for free or by name your price, because I mean, people don't really totally buy digital music anymore anyways, and there's not much point, or it might be a little expensive to press records for non-active bands. So and until Shot Collar has active bands on it, then I think it would be worth like getting into like printing that, or like I'm thinking of once I get, maybe next year, like once I have enough bands on there, making like a compilation album, maybe a compilation record or something like that.
That sounds like a great idea. I can't help but think that if you've been able to find these curiosities just in this one town of Williams Lake, which has, not much more than 10,000 people, what do you think about the rest of the province? I mean, there must be other towns outside of the major cities that have punk scenes and history and
exactly. And I'm gonna be getting a little bit into Kamloops too. There's a band called The Squish from Kamloops from the early 90s, and they also agreed to be on Shot Collar and be a part of it.
That's fantastic. So yeah, it's with something like this, you never know where it's going to go. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, that's kind of the fun of it. So it's kind of like a new, not even just for fun, but like not even a hobby. It's just like a passion, I guess, to create this record label and bring forth this music, unheard music that should be heard.
And who knows, maybe others will be inspired to do the same. I mean, maybe there's someone in Australia doing the same thing right now with all the
who knows,
bands from Albury or Wollongong or Atherton or who knows. I mean, there's punk rock is the music of the people, and people have been making this music now since the late 70s, and who knows what's out there. And actually, your label has already come to the attention of Chris Walter in Vancouver. Chris Walter, of course, is an author known for a series of really awesome novels based on the world of punk rock and the downtown east side.
So I asked him to review the albums because I couldn't think of a better person to review these albums. He said he wouldn't take the job if he didn't like the bands, but he took the job, so apparently he likes the bands, so that's the cool thing.
Yeah, well, let's read out one review here. So the album we talked about first, Endgame,
Yeah.
History. This is the one that had Todd Sirius on lead vocals. So fans of the Rebel Spell will salivate over these unreleased tracks from Endgame, which predated the Rebel Spell by several years. Singer Todd Sirius and drummer Stepha Lord went on to the Rebel Spell fame, but the only Endgame track they took with them was Senseless. Hearing Todd's voice again sends shivers down the spine, and this album is very reminiscent of the early Spell. If you love the Rebel Spell, then Endgame will also find a place in your heart. Cheers to Shot Collar Records for bringing these undiscovered treasures to light. So those are the words of Chris Walter.
Yeah, that was... It's nice how he, being such an experienced writer, can just nail it on the head kind of with such a not so long review either. Kind of keeps it nice and short and sweet. And there's one correction I have to make about that though. The only Endgame track the Rebel Spell took with them was Senseless. That's not actually true, because Endgame also wrote Green Soldier, Feel the Same, and maybe that's it. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's kind of cool that Todd would take ideas and kind of put it in his back pocket and come back to them years later.
So again, the album is History by Endgame. Todd Sirius lead vocals, Clory Jenkins bass, Kurt Folden guitar, Stepha Lord drums, recorded in 2002 by Peter Vogler at Rhythm Recordings of Vancouver, BC, and finally released online.
Name your own price or whatever.
Sure.
So people don't have to pay if they don't want.
Walk Me Home by Endgame from the record History.
Lately life has lost its flavor. Nothing means too much anymore. Most of the day I just sat in the corner trying to feel something at all. Everybody that I see looks so sad to me. Could it be my reflection that I see in your face? Could I get some help? Let's leave this place. Just a bit of unity that everyone's alone. I'm asking you just as much as someone want me home. Just a bit of unity that everyone's alone. I'm asking you just as much as someone want me home. Last night the kids looked so tired, and I swear that they could see through me. Standing there in front of this crowd, wondering a mile where I should be. Everybody that I see just looks so scared to me. Could it be my reflection that I see in your face? Could I get some help? Let's leave this place. Just a bit of unity that everyone's alone. I'm asking you just as much as someone walk me home. Just a bit of unity that everyone's alone. I'm asking you just as much as someone walk me home. Someone walk me home. Someone walk me home. Everybody that I see just looks so scared to me. Be my reflection that I see in your face. Could I get some help? Let's leave this place. Just a bit of unity that everyone's alone. I'm asking you just as much as someone walk me home. Just a bit of unity that everyone's alone. I'm asking you just as much as someone walk me home. Someone walk me home.
Shot Collar Records, as I mentioned on the show, we've already played tracks from the Dr. Evil record, Raise Your Glass, and the 10th Avenue record, another Casualty record, 10th Avenue.
Yeah.
How about there's one other record on here that we haven't played anything from. It's self-titled record by Violation. What can you tell us about this record, Evan?
This record was recorded in 1996, I believe. And Kurt Folden, who's also the guitar player of Endgame, was the guitar player of Violation. Also with Cody Lewis on second guitar. Binky, also known as JC Prest, on drums. Troy Poison, who's also the singer of Dr. Evil, on vocals. And Derek Pickles on bass, who also was the drummer of Dr. Evil. So there's some connections there. And basically, let's hear the most offensive song off the record. It's called No Offense.
Excellent. Here it is now. No Offense, track 7 from the Violation self-titled record.
Tune in every other Sunday from 3 to 4 p.m. for Blood on the Saddle with your host, Dan N. For real, authentic country.
So we're back here on Stranded. We just heard there the track No Offense from Violation, a self-titled record that was recorded at Hectic House in 1996. So again, we'll read Chris Walter's review of this. These 5 lads from Williams Lake, BC are 23 years older than they were when they recorded these 10 raging tracks back in 1996. But better late than never. Borrowing heavily from early 80s hardcore, Violation's aggressive attack would have fit right in with hardcore heroes of the day such as Government Issue, 7 Seconds, or Gangrene. Suffice to say, this album will take you back to those days. Melodic enough to save it from being too obnoxious, but fast and loud enough to keep everyone happy. Violation packs a meaty hardcore punch. I don't know what Williams Lake is like these days, but it must have been a riot back in 96. So that's Chris Walter speaking of Violation and the self-titled debut, released finally by Evan Catalano and Shot Collar Records. And that leads us to the present, because Chris is saying, I don't know what Williams Lake is like these days. Well, Evan can tell us. What are your plans for the year here in Williams Lake?
Well, this year I'm going to be putting on... I have a show already that I'm putting on March 8th. Folk bluegrass band from Jasper, Alberta, called Athabasca Barn Burner. They're coming up and should be a good show, so I hope to organize more shows other than just that one. I hope to get my ska punk band from Nelson and Grand Forks up here to play hopefully either Arts on the Fly or Arts Wells, or maybe even both, but that might be a bit of a challenge since we live all so far apart now, but we still want to do music together. So other than that, I mean, it's kind of nice in Williams Lake that there's not much of a punk scene here in Williams Lake right now, and actually me and Kurt Folden had a punk band going, and our drummer actually moved recently, so it's tough to find just a punk rock drummer in town these days. But so I don't know, I think it's Brandon was running the show pretty much for shows and whatnot here in Williams Lake, and now it seems that other people have taken over for him, like Venta and Brent and myself, I guess. And so that's good. Everyone's able to do their part and keep the scene going, and maybe even in a new direction. I hope to actually get a punk show going here sometime early summer when my band's up. So we'll do one of the festivals at least, and hopefully play a show in Williams Lake along the way.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for chatting today, Evan Catalano.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. This is Stranded, and again, you can find Evan's own recorded work at distortedgarden.bandcamp.com and his record label shotcollarrecords.bandcamp.com.
Great talking with you, Matt.
Thank you.